Greetings, everyone, and welcome to Cole in Columbus. On today's candidate conversation, we are joined by Republican candidate for Bartholomew County Council District 4, Barb Hackman. Barb has an established career in county government, serving as township assessor, county auditor, and currently serves as the county treasurer. She has also been heavily involved in local and state Republican politics and currently serves as the vice chair of the Bartholomew County Republican Party. She will be facing an opponent for the Republican nomination. District 4 spans across southwestern Bartholomew County. Barb, thank you for joining me.
Oh, thank you, Cole, for having me.
So, the first question I'd like to ask is, I think, a question that any candidate running for office likes to be asked, which is, who are you and why are you running?
Okay, I'm Barb Hackman. I am currently your Bartholomew County treasurer. I previously served as county auditor and also Columbus Township assessor in an elected capacity, but I've worked in other offices within Bartholomew County, namely the Sheriff's Department, auditor's office and treasurer's office, just not as the elected official. But so I have been very involved with local government for 43 years. So it is, it's been an honor and privilege to serve in that capacity. I would like to continue. Why I'm running is because I would like to continue serving the uh, people of Bartholomew County, just in a little bit different capacity as a county councilman. I feel like I still have a lot knowledge, especially, and experience to provide in that particular role as District 1 for those constituents, but also for as one of seven. I'm very, very um, knowledgeable about what that position does. As serving as county auditor for 10 years, I was the clerk for the council, helped put the agenda together for, all the different functions for the different departments within the county, which there's probably about 30, 35 maybe, that come before the council for their budget. So we are the fiscal officer of the county. So we do deal with all the financial issues that come up before the council for all the departments within the county, especially, salaries, especially important for our employees, which are there about 450. So that's, it's a big responsibility, and there is a lot that's going on with the Senate Bill 1 that was passed last year and ongoing legislation in regards to revenue stream for the counties, local, with property taxes, implementing some of those changes for this tax cycle. And then they did, in the last legislation, did put, I think, a delay on the new the local income tax structure that's going to be in place. So there's going to be a lot that the county council is going to be looking at and determining and trying to make sure that Bartholomew County, is fiscally responsible and fiscally sound.
You mentioned Senate Bill 1 from 2025, which leads me into my next question. You know that
Mhm.
Senate Bill 1 provided property tax relief, which is what constituents wanted, and the state
Right.
delivered. But on the other hand, the piece of legislation also enabled local governments to increase their local income tax rate. Do you
Mhm.
believe that local income taxes should be raised in Bartholomew County? And how do you plan to coordinate these changes to the lit with the city of Columbus?
I don't believe that there's maybe going to have to be a increase in the local income tax. I think it will probably just be trying to make sure that it is uh, depending on, and it all kind of depends on what the property tax revenue ends up being. And I think that's going to be determined, once, and that we haven't billed out yet. We're getting ready. April the 8th is probably most likely that's our target date. But the auditor's office is working, in with the state to get their abstract approved, and get tax calculations, and they're working on it. Should be within, either the end of this week, which we're getting close to the end of this week, or next week for sure. And then we'll know a little bit more once those revenues come in to see what it's going to take to at least get us where we were at. And I think and that's probably good that maybe they have delayed it, especially for the schools. They'll still be receiving their funding from LIT, which will go away once that is implemented. But I think that will be more of a tell-all of what we can expect and what we will, as a council, need to do to keep, because they've capped it at 2.9% for the counties. So, and currently the county is supposed to get 1.2% of that. The municipalities, 1.2%, and then the rest with, township, fire, and maybe some others, that also receive income tax. So I think, I'm hoping that, if we could just stay, um, neutral, or even with what we receive now, we would be very, very happy. And that's the challenge. That will be the challenge, to see how that all, pans out. But AIC, who I'm a very involved with as being president, and that's the Association of Indiana Counties, I am president this year. And so I do have, a wealth of information that I can bring to the council because of that, in regards to what the legislators are, doing, and, looking at maybe even in, their summer studies to see, and because we have hired policy analytics. And I don't know if anyone's ever heard of he was a former Purdue economic professor, Larry DeBoer, very, well renowned, very well respected. He's helping with the policy analytics to look at those numbers. And he's presented to AIC annual meetings, to also district meetings, special district meetings, actually, in trying to help local government in every county determine how the property tax, new structure is going to affect property taxes, how it's going to affect your county. And then also, once they get a little more numbers and income numbers too, uh, that we will be able better to determine how this is going to play out with the new income tax structure. So I think that's very, very valuable, that we will get more, real-time information, numbers, to help us make those really, decisions on what we can do to make us, stay solvent in our county.
A recent area of contention within the county, it was on display earlier or late last year when we were notified that the county was going to receive $0 from the state's community crossings grant that could have been used for road
Hmm.
maintenance. I know
Right.
just this week, we're recording this on March 5th, just this week the
Hmm.
state announced a reversal of that decision, and we're getting close to what we had asked for, which was $1 million. I imagine that has to do with a lot of local pushback from our
Oh,
leaders.
yes, yes.
But in part, in the same legislative session in 2025, there was a bill that passed that required local county governments to implement a wheel tax in order to be
Hmm.
eligible for an increased amount of funding from the Community Crossings Grant. Now,
Right.
Bartholomew County does not have a wheel tax. Do you
No,
believe
we
that
do
that should
not.
change?
Not necessarily. Part of the reason is because when I was auditor back when the council decided to increase our, at that time it was called edit tax. It was later, called, um, and that was the economic development income tax. And so then we increased that by 25%, which was 25% of um, it's like 1.25%. And we increased it, well, we were at 1.5% for our income tax, and we increased it, 25%. So it was then 1.75%. So sorry, that gets a little, people were
That's
thinking,
okay.
whoa, 25%, but no, it was 25% of 1%. So yeah, so it was a little, a little confusion, I think, of the taxpayers at that time, that we increased it. So, but that was because the council at that time did not want to do a wheel tax because they did look into it. But it was decided that increasing the income tax, the edit tax at the time, would be more beneficial because it could be used for, you know, across the board in our financial, any of the funds, or well, basically most of the funds, except, grant funds and some of those that are um, property tax driven. But but the council decided to just do the edit fund, to increase that and not do the wheel tax at that time. And so I think, we have been receiving, funds into, the commissioners, do have that one fund that they do control, that they can use for, their roads. And so I think that, unfortunately, the state has pretty much, because since they didn't give us any to begin with and then rescinded that and did give us, I think it was a little almost 700,000 is what I remember the number being. Um, that, they're, maybe weighing it, but they got less funding too. So that is probably going to be an ongoing. So saying that no, they shouldn't get a wheel tax, or yes, I mean, it all probably depends on how much, um, our roads, will continually need maintenance, like always. How many, I mean, we get a report every Monday. The commissioners get a report every Monday, from the highway department. And Danny Hollander, he's a does a great job as our county engineer. And so, depending on how many, roads that they're going to need to fix, which is always going to be with our weather that we have, here in, central Indiana, there's always maintenance that's going to be needed. So how you're going to, if the funds are there enough from what we're getting in income tax, can also help if, especially, grants, are grants. They are not um, they're not stable like I mean, because they can go away, and that's the problem. You cannot count on always receiving those. As we saw this year, it's not a given that you're going to receive that grant money every year. So, because back in the day, we weren't receiving that back then. And that's why the edit tax did help support, the road funding. So, I've heard most of my other council members and commissioners. I know they're very, much against doing a wheel tax, but it is a user tax. So the people that use the roads, especially the trucks, the bigger trucks, I mean, they're paying. And that's what the wheel tax does. It is a user fee that is tacked on to your um, to your payment, um, the B&B that you, so that you can, because if you use the roads, that's you're helping pay for the roads. So wheel tax is not a bad thing. But we don't have one, and there could be a time, depending on what the funding has. So I wouldn't say that I would necessarily be opposed to it forever. I would just have to see from year to year what our funding revenue is for roads. And there might become a point in time when, especially if this grant, the crossing grants, continues to decline or not be there at all, like it almost was, then the state's almost making it impossible for you to receive additional money. So, that's the bottom line. They're making it so that the counties are really looking at having to do a wheel tax. And I think the last time I looked, there's about 47, maybe 48, I think, counties that do have the wheel tax. So it's about half. It's about half of the counties that do. So, and you can structure it, all different ways, because I was part of that when we were looking at the wheel tax, and LTAP does a great job in providing you all those tools to determine, what those charges would be for for each individual. But if you think of it as a user tax, and that's how I think of it, I think then it is a little bit more palatable to take to the people and say, look, they're the ones that are using the roads. That's, that's maybe who you want to help pay for the road maintenance. So that's, I'm not saying I'm totally against it, but I would just have to look. I think it would just need to be reviewed from year to year.
A
So,
common criticism that I have heard from citizens is that the county
mhm.
has too much money sitting in reserves. Can you talk about how much money is currently sitting in reserves, and should that amount continue to increase?
I think in reserves now, what we call the rainy day fund, I think is about 15 million. But honestly, there's no revenue stream for that rainy day fund. It is there for you don't get money every month from the state or from the federal government or anything. That money started, it was a much smaller amount back when I was auditor. A lot of that came from when we had inheritance tax. And we had a windfall with one of our prominent um, people that lived in Bartholomew County. When they passed away, we received almost $1.5 million that went into the rainy day fund. And there were a couple of other places that money did come from. I think sometimes if we had excess in our income tax, it was directed for us to put into the rainy day fund. If you didn't spend a certain amount of your operating budget, you could put a percentage of that into your rainy day fund. So that's where the majority of those monies have come from. So there's no revenue streaming for that. So once it's gone, it's gone. And you want to make sure that if you have a catastrophic incident or something is um, needed, that's really basically the only fund you have to um, back and make your funds healthy. So there could be some instances where that could happen. And just knowing that when that money's gone, it's gone, and there is no revenue stream for that. And I don't think the majority of people realize that.
The former Columbus Township trustee, Ben Jackson, stole over $1 million in taxpayer dollars while he was in
Mhm.
office. The state
Yes.
took action just this year to consolidate underperforming townships. Do
Mhm.
you think that this legislation went far enough? And what responsibility should the county have in overseeing township governments?
I honestly had dealt with many of that in my capacity when I was, just to give a little background, when I was chairman of the Republican Party. You have the responsibility of when there's vacancies within those township trustees, then you either caucus depending on how many precincts there are, um, or you can appoint depending, how many voting precincts there are. So I dealt with quite a few, unfortunately, instances where the trustees were fraudulent and did end up, having jail time, having to pay that back. And unfortunately, there were more than what I really like to talk about. And Ben Jackson was just the last one. And so I think there needed to be reform. And of course, I can say back in the day also, there were other more responsibilities that the trustees had. So when I first came, in with the county, they did assessing. They did their assessing in their townships. They did the business personal property returns. They helped the farmers. They helped their individuals that had business within their offices. That has all been given to the county assessor's office. So that was a huge responsibility. So that went by the wayside. One thing that they did take over was the county auditor's office used to pay their poor relief claims. And they did take that back. So they do have to pay their poor relief claims now. But in looking at what the state is looking at in merging them, I honestly think because of some of the responsibilities that they've had that they no longer have, and the other agencies that are out there to provide some of the aid to these individuals, that I think it is in the step in a right direction. I'm not sure I would have said that 15 years ago, even back when I was a former township assessor. But I do say it now because I see the change. I see the unfortunate instances where the trustees and have not probably done a good job financially and their transparency. Even though we have our the gateway portal that everything has to be turned in, and that you're supposed to um, that you set your budget and you do all this, but the trouble is a lot of them aren't doing that. They are not doing their job that they are supposed to be. They're not doing their training. They are not doing the reporting. They're not performing. And that's what this is. This is a performance evaluation that is going to be done on these or on these townships, to make sure that the taxpayers are spending, giving these townships money to, run their township, the best they can. But if they're not doing it, then I think consolidation, the merging of these smaller townships, that, their salaries are much more than what they're even paying out to help the poor relief, and to help support their fire in those townships. So no, I think it's great. I think it's a step in the right direction. Could there be more done? I think taking these baby steps, as I would, well, they're probably not even baby, they're a little bit giant steps, but it is in going in the right direction. And I think it will be very, very good for the county, actually, because I know there's some townships that are probably sitting there um, with some money with some funds that, probably are being underutilized for that township. And the taxpayers are getting, the brunt of that. So,
Can you talk about some of your role models, political or otherwise?
oh my gosh. Oh, the first one that came to mind is former bosses. My former boss, Sue Paris, was probably, and Vernon Jewell. I had two great role models in Sue and Vernon both. They were both very attuned to the the taxpayers, to their office, very involved in their associations of both, because I know Vernon was president of the Auditors Association when he was there. I have followed Sue Paris's steps in becoming president of our Association of Indiana Counties. So, so they have just been, you know, they were I had very good role models in going forward. And because I never thought I would actually, way back when I was, because when I worked in the auditor's office, did payroll. I did payroll for 10 years because um, I really enjoy people. I love to talk to people. I love to interact with them, get to know them. And even though we were a fairly large county, back then we probably maybe had 350 employees. It has grown since then, but I knew them when they came in. I was kind of the HR person. We did not have HR department. So I'm the one the first person they saw when they came in and signed up for benefits. I was, help them with their benefits, help them with their, and then when they would leave, I helped them with their retirement. And so it was, I really enjoyed that that position when I was formerly worked with the auditor's office, and I had both Sue and Vernon that were awesome role models. And also, when I first came into office, I worked with Jim McKinney and in the sheriff's department. And I'll tell you, if you ever needed any help in a situation, you wanted Jim McKinney there because he would do absolutely everything in his power to keep you safe. And he ran the department very well. He cared about his the sheriff's deputies and all of that. And I really appreciated working under Jim McKinney as well. And I learned a lot from all the offices that I've worked in. And the assessor's office was I I can't deny it, the assessor's office was hard. I learned a lot, and I did attain my level 3 certification for assessing, and I keep that. I firmly believe in education, continuing education. I have to have so many hours to keep that certification, and I keep up with that. Um, so I really, and so did, and actually, Sue Paris is the one that started the Association of Indiana Counties, their institute class. And so I continue with that opportunity as well. And as elected official, you do have to have those hours to keep your position. And so I usually always above and beyond and those continuing education classes, because I think it's very important to keep up with education. It does change every year. There's legislation that comes down from the state that affects local government. I mean, when you see, I've been on the ledge committee for the Association of Indiana Counties. I've been on the ledge for when I was auditor's office. So, those are when you get to know your legislators, talk to them about how this affects your office and how this will affect your um, you're serving your taxpayers and what that does. And and it's very important to keep up on all of that. Very, very important. And I had some great role models in making sure that they knew what was happening during that time. The legislators keeping up on your county bulletins from the State Board of Accounts, keeping up all that information. So, yes, I had wonderful role models.
All right, we're now ready for our rapid fire section here. I have 5 questions for you. You ready?
I'm ready.
Describe your leadership style in one word.
Um, Approachable.
What is one issue that keeps you up at night?
Financial. Um, is it just one word?
Just one word.
Okay.
Raise
Um,
raise
okay. Oh my
taxes
gosh,
or cut service?
that's hard. Just one word, but I would say that keeps me up at night. Um, but I guess financial is okay. Just yeah,
Raise taxes or cut services?
I'd have to say raise taxes.
Okay. Favorite restaurant in the county?
Amazing Joe's. But I'm
Favorite
going to
local?
Olive Garden tomorrow, so that might change.
Oh my God. I'm giving it a couple weeks to let it dry out. Good luck. What's your favorite local event or festival?
Oh gosh. I honestly love Hope Heritage Days. I grew up 4-H was a big part of my life. 4-H and the fair, the 4-H fair. Well, actually, I probably should have said the 4-H fair. Sorry, can I take back Hope Heritage Days?
Yes, you
Because
can.
4-H fair is probably my all-time favorite event of the year. Hope Heritage Days would come in second,
The fair
but
is a lot of fun.
the
And
fair is because I was a 4-H leader for probably 25 years, and now I'm currently president of our home extension clubs, county president there, and so very involved. Our homemakers are we host us the fair, the family arts building, so I'm very, very involved with the fair. And of course, I was a 10-year member. My both my daughters were, all 6 of my grandchildren are show livestock or are involved with 4-H. So 4-H, yeah, it took me a minute. The rapid fire questions are very hard
they are. They are.
because I like to think about things before I answer.
I agree. I get it. I would have to agree, though. I'm in the same boat. I think the fair is probably one of my, at least my top 5 events in the county. It's
Yes,
despite how
yeah.
dreadfully hot it has been over the last
Oh,
years.
yes, yeah. Or rain. We either get hot or we get, storms and, or close down the fair. And I hate to see that because, yeah,
Yes.
it's important, I think, especially for those 4-H kids that work so hard to get their projects done, show their animals, and then at the fair, shuts down, then that is very, yeah,
Yeah.
it's
And
hurtful.
over the last 2 years, despite how hot it was, I mean, it was
Yes.
still
Oh,
great.
yes.
People really enjoy it.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. So when you come to the fair, just come to the Family Arts Building because it is air conditioned. Yeah.
okay, good to know. That's
And
a huge perk.
we have activities every night that the Home Extension Club has helped put on, helped sponsor. So, and we always have something every night. So, pie baking contest, children's baking. Here, see, I can get a plug in for.
Very good. Very good. Well, that is all that we have time for today. Barb, how can people learn more about you or support your campaign if they're interested?
I don't have a web page yet. I'm not sure I will do that, but I'm very accessible. My phone number, I have a Facebook page. I don't have just my own. I don't have a campaign one, but they can always, reach out to me through Facebook on Messenger, or I they can call me at the treasurer's office, and then I can call them back after hours. So they can always reach me through the county treasurer's office. And I'd be glad to talk to anyone. And I know we are going to be having some forums coming up. I think the Ladies League, I'm part of that as vice chair of the party. I'm the second vice president at the Republican Ladies League. So we are going to have some forums, candidate forums coming up. So hopefully that will be publicized, and it will be public. So people can come, and yeah, I'm very accessible. Just, yeah, to get my phone number, it's usually out there I think it's probably out there on the website. And I think even when I email me, I have a couple different emails. So personal and private, or personal and, I should say, office. Yeah, email. So
Well, very good. Barb, thank you so much for your time. And thanks to all of you who are engaged in this important election. Primary election
mhm.
day is May 5th, and early voting begins April 7th. Take care.
Right. Thank you, Cole. I appreciate it.